I started off on my own, then I got respected. Put all my time into the grind, and then I got connected. A few done turned their backs on me, and I felt neglected. Now I'm moving on without them unapologetic.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Unapologetic Truth, the channel we speak the truth and don't apologize for it. Why? Because the truth never apologizes. All right, today we're gonna get to the global financial crisis. Last video we talked about the downfall of America. Now we're talking about globally. You know, a lot of y'all don't understand that globally the financial crisis is very in a dire state. It's very bad. So let's get into a few videos so you guys can understand and see what I'm talking about.
North 50%. That would have a devastating impact.
Start this over.
At stake here, what does it look like?
Well, what's really at stake is the economic revival of the New York City region and to a large extent the national economy. The MTA carries 40% of public transit passengers in the entire country. New York accounts for slightly under 10% of national GDP. If we don't get federal funding, and our ask is $12 billion over the next several years, our hand may be forced, and we may be forced to make service reductions on subways and buses of up to 40%, and on Long Island Railroad and
40%. For those of you who don't know what this is the MTA. MTA is the company that has all the transportation throughout, you know, America and some throughout the world. But a lot of people take public transportation to work. A lot of people take public transportation to all type of different places. They're talking about they're in a really bad financial crisis right now, where they're going to cut 40% of transportation down. So you will barely see any buses, trains running through any of the streets because they have to cut back because of their financial crisis. They saying unless they get help from the government, which I don't really understand because the government gives out they're finna give out $1.8 trillion to people, but they can't help MTA. It's not only MTA, it's a lot of places that need bailout. They don't have enough funds to bail everyone out, including all of the Americans.
and Metro North 50%. That would have a devastating impact on
50% up north. 50% of MTA's transportation cut. You can't tell me that we're not in a global financial crisis.
On commuters, on transportation, on the New York economy, and frankly would exacerbate social equity issues. We carry in an average day about 7.5, 7.6 customers. We get half our revenue from our customers in fares and tolls, the remainder in a dedicated package of taxes and subsidies. And the remarkable thing is the decline in ridership is orders of magnitude worse than occurred during the Great Depression. I'll give you one example. The decline in subways from September 1929, the month before the crash, to 1933, which was the low point on subway ridership, was a 13% decline. New York City, subway ridership was down 95%. And on Monday, subway ridership was about 29%. Pandemic weekday ridership. Subway and bus ridership has increased significantly. We're carrying pretty close to 2.9 million passengers a weekday on subways and buses. But that revenue, that ridership decline has had a terrible impact on our revenues. Same thing on the dedicated package of taxes and subsidies.
What are you hearing from Washington in terms of what kind of federal help you may or may not be able to get right now?
Well, look, I think the likelihood is that there will be a 19 relief bill this year for mass transit or states and cities. That's certainly the way it appears. Obviously, the election of President-elect Biden and his administration gives us great hope. However, the Senate Republican leadership in Washington has been holding up funding for states and cities, public transit agencies, including the MTA. And the effects on the New York economy from a transportation point of view, an environmental point of view, a job point of view, and a social equity point of view would be devastating if we don't get that $12 billion of federal funding.
Pat, let me ask you a question.
As we can see from on the screen, look how far of a drop in 2020 the MTA has in revenue. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. That is crazy. MTA will collapse. There will be no public transportation. You don't own a car. You don't own any type of personal transportation. You will not have a way to get around. You will not have a way to get to work. Okay, now let's go to the next video.
Dramatic fall in demand from passengers and from shippers. What started in Asia Pacific has now spread globally, and we're seeing a very significant fall. We could see the industry losing $63 billion, roughly 11% of global revenues, and that's really if the outbreak is limited to the major centres in Europe and the Middle East that it is today. It's possible, if we see a wider spread, that those losses in revenues could grow to something like 113 billion, which would be 19% of global revenues, sort of equivalent to what we saw in the global financial crisis. We're in a crisis situation here. Airlines are doing a lot to help themselves. They're cutting back on capacity. They're cutting their own costs. That's not going to be sufficient to offset the revenue impact.
That's not going to be sufficient. Because you're cutting costs does not mean that you're going to stop the financial collapse. Like I said before, the government is not going to be able to bail out every single person. The Great Depression, not recession, but the Great Depression is coming. You have to prepare. If you don't prepare, you will be blindsided and you will not be able to survive.
If governments want to see connectivity maintained to support consumers and businesses, the industry needs support. In particular, the industry needs support in congested airports where there are slot restrictions. It needs waivers on the slot rules. It needs help through this cash flow crisis, both temporary government support, but also support from providers of credit and other finance.
Airports is going to collapse. You won't be able to fly anywhere. Period. I mean, it's right before your eyes. If you look and see what's going on around you, quit being blind from the things they throw in your face. See, the elite want you to be blinded by music, by movies. They want you to be blinded by a lot of things. Now, if you're not going to pay attention, you will be blindsided. Mark my word, there will be a global financial collapse. Not just America, but across the whole globe. All right, now, let's get to something else. Now I want you to listen to this lady. Now I've been screaming about the food crisis that's gonna happen. I've been screaming about how people are gonna be going to food lines in order for them to feed their family. Because a lot of people are gonna lose their jobs and not gonna be able to provide for their family. So what they're gonna resort to? They're gonna resort to going to food pantries. Food pantries is not gonna be able to keep up. They're not gonna be able to keep up. So guess what's gonna happen? They're gonna run out of food. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? If you can't feed your family, if you can't go get food from anywhere, what are you gonna do? That's why it's imperative for you. I'm talking to the man of the house. That's why it's imperative for you to prepare for what's coming. Prepare. If you don't have a man in the house, I'm talking to the woman of the house. Prepare. Because the collapse is coming.
Joining us now is Baron Segar, President and CEO of World Food Program USA. Baron, tell us a bit more about the current hunger situation and what's at risk here.
Well, first, Jill, thanks for having me on. I would say that the World Food Program USA is probably right now a better investment than GameStop, AMC, American Airlines, and we're not going to restrict anybody from investing in our vision to save a life. So, we're facing a hunger crisis of our lifetime. Right now, there are 151 million people around the world that are facing severe hunger. 30 million of those are facing starvation, and that's a word that's been rarely used over the last few years, and we're trying desperately to avert it. The reality is that there's a consequence of starvation, and that.
Look at this. The World Food Program Outlook. 2021 expected to be a catastrophic year without swift action. Currently, 151 million people facing severe hunger, including 30 million at risk of starvation across 40 countries. 40 countries. Risk of famine in parts of Burkina Faso, Northeast Nigeria, South Sudan, Yemen. We are facing the greatest hunger crisis of our time. The famine is coming, and it's coming faster than you think. Believe it. A lot of people have lost their jobs and can't find jobs. Prepare. I cannot say this enough. I cannot say it enough. Prepare for what's coming, because it's coming.
The consequence is death. But I would also say that there's enough food to go around the world to make sure that we can avert famine and starvation. So our role is to make sure that everybody in the United States and around the world knows that hunger is solvable and that there are ways to prevent it, but it's not preventable without funding.
How serious is the situation in the United States specifically?
So in the United States, there are some safety nets. We have great organizations like Feeding America. There are government subsidies. So I would say that for the world
food pantries, but the food pantries is not going to be able to feed billions of people. They're not. They're not going to be able to feed billions of people. The government is not going to be able to bail out everybody. Period. Regardless of what they're going to do or try to do, The collapse, the famine, starvation, death is coming to your doorstep.
Food program. Our work is in 83 countries, internationally, working with the most vulnerable, those that are living on about $1.90 a day. So in the United States, listen, hunger is happening in the United States and abroad. Our goal at the World Food Program and in support of the World Food Program USA is to make sure that we're averting death through starvation. So again, hunger, a global issue happening in the United States. You've seen the number of individuals that are waiting in line for food, but we're not facing starvation in the United States, but we're facing starvation in right now, for example, 4 countries facing the prospect of starvation and famine. And that is something that we...
Now, he said we're not facing starvation in America, which I beg to differ. Because if you look at all the homelessness in America, we are top. We are top percent, number 1 in homelessness across the globe. If they looking to America to save them, but America can't even save their own people in their own backyard. So what makes them that think that America's gonna come try to save them? The elite could care less. They eating good steaks, they eating really good. They can care less about you and your family because their family is good. It's up to you to wake up and realize what are they doing in your face. And they laughing. They laughing while you suffer.
Not faced before.
How has the exacerbated this problem and where specific?
Okay, now let's get to the last video, all right? And this guy right here, he's warning about the markets, the global markets. Now let's see what this guy has to say.
David, as we wrap up 2020, the backdrop for the markets is the proposal of the stimulus package south of the border. 2 bills on the table there. Is it too little, too late?
Well, in some sense, it is too little, too late, to save the economy from a near-term double-dip recession. I think
too little, too late. This guy's on the money.
first quarter is going to be very rough as far as the macro data are concerned. But you see, for the markets, what you don't get in fiscal policy, the hope is that you're going to get in terms of monetary policy. So in some perverse way, even though we're going to be having millions of Americans not just losing their jobless benefits, but also the risk of ending their loan forbearance and possible evictions, you're talking about millions of people that are going to be affected. The markets are not some moral compass. They're looking for the Fed to step into the gap, dramatically infuse the markets with liquidity. That was really the principal story for the markets all year long, whether Canada or the United States. It wasn't really fiscal policy's impact on the markets. It was monetary policy and the liquidity spigots. So that's really what the markets continue to feed on, is if we don't get the fiscal stimulus, Jay Powell is there to backstop us even more.
There is optimism as we head into 2021. But it seems as though economists, analysts, strategists, they've all baked for the new year. And I've heard you say that the markets are out of control bullish. So where do we go in the new year?
Well, I think that there is obviously tremendous room for optimism.
time period. I mean, Larissa, this is a modern day medical miracle. And so even I'm bullish on that aspect of it. I'm looking forward to going back and working downtown instead of the home office. But a lot of that is priced in. Just as you would say that at the March lows in the market, you had some sort of Armageddon priced in, which we never got Armageddon. We have a tremendous amount of enthusiasm priced in right now. And in fact, I'll be the first to tell you that we now, no doubt for months, have had a light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. We have the light at the end of the tunnel. And there's a limited amount of room that you can play that if you're bullish right now. But in 2021, we're at some point going to have to come to grips with pricing in life beyond the light at the end of the tunnel. There is a world beyond the light at the end of the tunnel. The markets will not end at that light. And there's a lot of uncertainty, not just about how we're going to resolve these massive public deficits and debts. If you don't think taxes are going to be going up, that's going to squeeze personal incomes. Tell me, outside of outright debt monetization and the risks that entails, how we get out of this.
They're going to squeeze every dollar out of you. Of course, taxes going to go up. They're going to squeeze every dollar out of you. Every single dollar until you have nothing.
Fiscal mess. And then on top of that, how all these months and quarters of isolation and social distancing, how has that affected our psyche? What sort of post-traumatic effects is that going to have on spending? And I'm saying really beyond next year, the second or third quarter, massive pent-up demand, traveling, going out to restaurants. I'm talking more in the US than in Canada. We'll be a little bit behind. That's in market pricing right now. The pent-up demand, which is not perpetual, it's a couple of quarters, that's in the market right now. I don't think what's in the market, if you're a long-term thinker, is life beyond the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't think it's going to be a smooth road towards perpetual accelerating economic growth. I think that there's going to be lots of downside risks ahead beyond that.
Help me characterize 2020. It seems like it was really the year of the stay-at-home stocks. Do you think that we will see market rotation move more into recovery stocks?
Well, it's not even a forecast. It's already happening. You're seeing that in the small cap stocks. They are more cyclical. You see that in what's called the value trade. That includes, airlines. It includes the financials. It includes basic materials, the industrials, the casino stocks, hospitality, leisure that have lagged for so long. They've actually regained leadership from technology and from the more big cap defensive growth names. That's happened actually, Larissa, for the past couple of months. Look, that makes sense to me that you're going to price in some sort of pent up demand. But remember, there are traders and then there are investors. And it's called the value trade for a reason. Because it's not going to be a trend, it's a trade. And I think that the stay at home theme is going to be a long-term enduring theme. I just find that most people don't know their history. They should probably read up about something called Victory Gardens after World War II. And that's what's happened. I guess maybe one of the is that we become a nation of being do-it-yourselfers, more self-reliant. And so I think you're going to find that even simple things like cooking, cookbooks, recipe books, kitchen appliances, they flew off the shelves every single month. So it's not as if we're not going to go out to eat still. We're just going to go out to eat less. We renovated our basements and bought Peloton bikes. I don't think we're going to be rushing out for those gym memberships. So there's a lot of things related to your home as your castle, your home as your place of work, that we've already invested so much time and capital in. And that's not going to change just because. So lots of fundamental changes that has positive implications for anything related to delivery service and wiring up your home for your office, but I would say negative implications for things, say, like commercial real estate. And I don't think the restaurant business is coming back for good for a long period of time.
Let's talk current.
Now, as we can see, a lot of things is going to be going down the drain. And it's going to continue. I don't care how optimistic people think. A lot of things is going to go down the drain. And it's not going to work out well for Americans, especially Americans who live in paycheck to paycheck. Wake up, open your eyes, see what's going on around you. Because if you don't, I feel bad for a lot of you, man. Me and my family, we preparing. What about you and yours? Well, that's all I have for you today, truthers. Don't forget to share the video, like the video. If you have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can get all my content as I upload it. This is Unapologetic Truth, signing out.
I started off on my own, then I got respected. Put all my time into the grind and then I got connected. A few done turned their backs on me and I felt neglected. Now I'm moving on without them unapologetic.